EASA has just dropped a critical airworthiness directive for some of the early production Airbus A350s. And it's a big deal. It's all about a hidden manufacturing flaw that could have some really serious consequences. So in this explainer, we're going to break down AD 2025-0209 piece by piece to really understand the risk, the required fix, and what this all means for operators.
Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the official directive itself. Then, we'll get into the root cause of this safety risk, what actually went wrong. After that, we'll pinpoint exactly which aircraft are on the list and, just as importantly, how long operators have to get the work done. Then, we'll cover the technical solution, and we'll wrap it all up with what might be the most crucial part for any airline, how you can actually plan for compliance without messing up your whole operation. All right, so let's start right at the source. You know, every airworthiness directive like this kicks off with an official document, and that's what gets the ball rolling. Understanding this piece of paper is really the first step to getting a handle on the whole issue. So, the directive we're talking about is EASA AD 2025-0209, and the key date you need to know here is October 8th, 2025. That's the day it officially goes into effect, and that's when the clock starts ticking for everyone to get this done. Okay, so why? Why was this directive even issued? I mean, EASA doesn't just mandate these kinds of expensive fixes for no reason. To really get the why, we need to dig into the specific unsafe condition that they found during manufacturing. The whole problem actually goes back to a pretty subtle mistake on the early A350 production line. What investigators found was that an improper retorque process for the fasteners, right where the center wing box and the belly fairing meet, was causing them to not have enough clamping force. Basically, they weren't tight enough. And that little mistake can set off a really dangerous chain reaction. See, it all starts with that one small error, the improper retorque. That leads directly to insufficient clamping, which is bad for structural integrity. But the real danger, the whole reason for this AD, is that a loose connection can create an electrical spark. And that's a potential ignition source in a part of the aircraft that's very close to fuel. And EASA, well, they don't mince words about how serious this is. This is a direct quote from the AD. It could, in case of a fuel leak, create a source of ignition, possibly resulting in an uncontrolled fire. And that, right there, is the absolute worst-case scenario that this directive is designed to prevent. So, with a risk this severe, the next questions for any operator are pretty obvious. Are my planes affected? And how long do I have to fix this? This section of an AD, the applicability, is always one of the most critical parts. So let's get into the specifics. The directive is incredibly specific here. It only applies to the Airbus A350-941 model. And even then, it's just for manufacturers' serial numbers 0005 all the way through 0047. So if your fleet has aircraft outside that range, you're in the clear. And the specific parts we're talking about are fasteners with the part number EN6115 code B. Now, the deadline for getting these modifications done, it gives operators a pretty significant runway. The compliance window is 78 months. That's 6.5 years from the effective date to get this critical work done. It allows for some flexibility, for sure, but it also means you gotta have some careful, long-range planning in place. Okay, so we know the problem, we know who it affects, and we know the deadline. Now for the fix. What exactly do Airbus and EASA need operators to do to make this unsafe condition go away for good? The required fix is basically a two-step process. First, maintenance crews have to go in and replace all of the affected fasteners, every single one of those EN6115 code B parts. Then, second, after they're replaced, they have to apply an additional head nut cap, which gives it extra security and helps improve the sealing. And all the nitty-gritty details on how to do this work, the replacement procedure, applying the protection, it's all contained in one document, Airbus Service Bulletin A350-57-P093. This is basically the Bible for getting this done correctly. Knowing the technical fix, well, that's only half the battle. Now comes the really hard part for the airlines, turning those engineering requirements into a smart operational plan. This is where the paperwork becomes a real-world logistics puzzle. And this is the key question for every single camo, every planner, and every manager out there. With a 78-month window, how do you actually get this done without causing major chaos for your flight schedules? The answer, really, is all about smart planning. The most efficient way to do this is to bundle the modification work in with your already scheduled heavy maintenance checks. But that means you have to plan those maintenance slots way in advance, make sure you have the man-hours allocated, and, this is a big one, get all the required fasteners and protection caps ordered ahead of time so you don't have any delays. So, at the end of the day, complying with 80-2025-0209 isn't just about checking a regulatory box. It's a critical link in the chain of aviation safety. This whole thing is a powerful reminder that even on the most advanced jets in the sky, the tiniest manufacturing details can have the biggest consequences. And it really leaves you with a big question. As aircraft get more and more complex, how can the industry get better at catching these kinds of subtle issues before they ever leave the factory?